Welcome everyone. This is Nichel Anderson. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is my last podcast for my season 3, 2019 to 2020. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate your support this past year, and I'm looking so forward to next year for season 4. So let's go ahead and focus on today, in which today's episode will be episode 54, entitled Mitsrayim rises before the Sudan among the Akun. Let me just go over a couple of housekeeping things. This production of MOLIAE is focused from my book Mitsrayim, a memoir that I turned into a theatrical production, which last month was the play, which was a celebratory type thing. It was a celebration of my long journey getting to there, and that was the third time returning back. That's actually going to be the last time that I'm back to stage. It'll probably be a long time before I decide to even return it, but for right now, that was it. Thank you so much for that support. So the other thing I just want to highlight that I have merchandise, so I do have a Cafe Press shop. The links in this description will be available. It is cafepress.com/ name of my MOLIAE production and name of this podcast. So you will see those links if you want to go ahead and support that. So cafepress.com / MOLIAE, or the name of this podcast. Let's get to the highlights, and also check out our apps. So I do have an app for this podcast and for MOLIAE website. And after this month, I go on summer break from June, July, August, and return back in the fall in September. So go ahead, and that would be one time. I release like one episode a month. Let's talk about the highlights, focusing back on King Mahlon. So this is like a continuation from last year, the finale, where you have King Mahlon and Henny. They was the two big takeaways of that, and I really highly recommend you go and check out that podcast. And that was in May, I believe May 27th, 2019. Let's talk about this. So that's the highlight. And then the recap is where we returned back from the finale of last year. Since I was doing the stage play, it took up all my time of podcasting. And most of my episodes were featuring on the future series of Nahar and Princess Amenia. And then, of course, focusing on promoting the play. Now, getting geared up for my summer break. So let's talk about this, where it says to recap the Orions and the star constellation of Orion to entail the starting of the trial and judgment of Nichel that was last release. So I do highly recommend you check that out. You're finding out I think another character and so forth, but you do get some more insight into that overall world of the Orions. It seems like to be a very big thorn for King Mahlon and for Mitsrayim in general. Let's go ahead and move forward. Again, thank you so much for supporting me on my podcast. I release a lot of bonuses. I usually do clip snippets because it's a Prima podcast. Since I was doing the theatrical production, return back to stage, and it was a celebration of all the years, I didn't really get to do that. So you got a lot of bonuses. So this is basically a bonus too. And then next year in season 4, where I'm planning to release other things, other projects with more time, because this bi-monthly really helped me to open up some time to expand this podcast, my other podcast, and MOLIAE. All right, so let's get started. So let's begin. For this week of my podcast show for season 3, 2019-2020, Nichel Anderson, Short Stories and Beyond. For this week episode, entitled Mitsrayim rises before the Sudan among the Akun. Opening scene. King Orion spilled through over the land of Mitsrayim in those days of the grand divine of Akun, intertwined of the rulership on Tiamat. The sacred and secret pathway that bridged above the rushing Nile River led to the Nichel, opening of the gate when one of the Akun brothers arrives to Tiamat. We see King Mahlon wearing his golden royal king crown adorned with gemstones and matching breastplate and wristlets that sparkled still under the glowing gray rays of the Congo above. And there, several of his superior military rank advisors and guards directly behind him, as they continue to walk on the pathway leading to Nichel. The first-rank Mitsrayim guards were stationed on either side that allowed King Mahlon to walk forward towards the opening of the Nichel dome entrance. Within moments, we see the stone gate open, and Enlil from Palladians walked out, along with several of his guards from the Council of Akun. They nodded as they saw one another, and then turned around to walk back to the connector that will lead them to the royal Abbas palace for their meeting. Enlil stood tall as Mahlon, and Enlil as his Nubian smooth Asha under the Kingo rays bore the semblance of grand authority as he wore his rank of long white attire that was trimmed with gold. His hair had a mixture of grayish and brown, with his eyes as caramel gold pierced through the silence as he continued to walk alongside King Mahlon. He spoke the sound of thunder of those of Theos. He spoke, "There is a concern I feel of you." King Mahlon nodded. "Sure, I do honor your visit here of the matter at hand." They continued to walk on the sacred pathway above the rushing Nile River. King Mahlon continued, "Hopefully at this moment, more can be revealed." Enlil nodded as well. "There are times of struggle, but it does not last long. It cannot, if choice is enforced within truth." King Mahlon absorbed the wisdom. Then he responded by saying, "Assure." He took a breath before saying more. The Orions entered the domain of Tiamat and retrieved one of their seated under after the war. Enlil slowed up walking and stopped. So did all the guards that were at a distance of them. And then he looked at King Mahlon directly. Who was he from the Orion skies? King Mahlon returned the stare and stated, "It was said in the circles of their file from the south of Sudan, a high-rank leader of the Akun named Hani." Enlil thought over the words spoken by King Mahlon. Then Enlil spoke as the wind picked up around them, coming off the rushing Nile River below. And then he said, "I wonder if Inky knows of this." Meanwhile, on the royal balcony of what is to be called Zimbabwe now and the beyond of time, we see King Mahlon standing in his royal dark brown and black garb, and his hair still thick with rows of authority. King Mahlon was standing next to Inky of the Akun of Pleiadians. Inky's hair was up over, shape as the Kingo in the season of reason of beyond. He stood tall as Inky stood as well on the balcony, and thought as he was wearing his maroon royal color attire, strips of gold throughout. Inky had just arrived to Zimbabwe and was informed that the last moments that represented the arrival of Hani from Orion. Inky informed King Mahlon not to be concerned of the matter, that all would be well. King Mahlon nodded and turned to leave the balcony as he saw his advisor was motioning him to speak at that moment. At the same time as Inky assisted his advisor that was standing to the side and advised him to walk closer on the balcony so they can speak in private. To make sure that be kept hidden, Inky spoke in a strong telepathic alaka way from ancient times within seconds to his royal advisor of an unknown code, and then Inky spoke of this ancient language of the Akun, Hasana Dene Diti Ite Wata'afa. Translation: send an envoy to the Orion skies, to the superiors of the western region of Orion by Hashan. In sync.